YouTube, this is Shadow Hero 90, welcoming you to my review series, Sexism in Movies and TV. So there's a whole list of reasons I could make as to why I do this show. In fact, during the Season 8 finale, I made a top 10 list of the double standards that Hollywood has when it comes to gender, or biological sex, whatever you want to call it. And I did make a lot of good points, and there are a ton of other topics. But the biggest and most glaring issue with what I tackle in this series boils down to the word hypocrisy. I mean, a lot of the stuff that happens to characters who are male on mostly American TV are things that would never happen to a female character in a million years. There's no way the FCC or foreign television would ever let that happen. If they did, Tumblr, X, Twitter, whatever social media platform is infested with cancel pigs at the moment, would rip them apart, metaphorically speaking. One reason I have to do this show more or less comes down to one word, and that is validation. Now, there are a ton of characters on TV who would be complete toxic role models for girls. And when it comes to those characters and their massive egos, the show will instantly validate them as opposed to taking a stand with reality and put them in their place the way they would with any male character, even if he's a character who's in the right. And that's kind of something that you don't see on American TV or shows imported from Japan, i.e. anime. Seems like good role models for boys on TV and in films have dwindled, while the number of bad role models for girls has not only gone up, but yeah, I'm just gonna say it. The people who write this schlock will instantly validate their horrid behavior at every point. And it's not just bad behavior. They also have massive egos that these crap shows will instantly bend over to validate as well. And when they're not doing that, they're more or less depriving girls of actual good role models. Instead, most role models for girls are the worst type of brats you can imagine. You know, the kind that would actually hurt their brother over something completely insignificant and minuscule. In recent years, positive role models for boys have fallen by the wayside. replaced by spineless cucks who cannot stand up for themselves and will bend over backwards for a girl, whether she be family or someone he has a crush on, and will more or less be screwed over in the end. And when you look at how these terrible episodes of TV shows and horrible films are written, the show and or film thinks this is okay. It says an awful lot about the jackass who wrote it. We need a men's rights revolution when it comes to the entertainment industry, specifically in film and television, because if we don't, things are going to stay the same. I blame the current state of movies and TV as to why young boys and young men have such low self-esteem. It should be pretty obvious that's why. No good role models equals terrible self-esteem. And those are some really good reasons as to why I do this series. Okay, in this episode, I will be ripping apart the episode of American Dad, Stan Goes on the Pill. And just to let you know ahead of time, it's gonna be one of those reviews. The type where I give you a quick overview of the episode, and then I tell you everything wrong with it. Well, in this episode, Stan is turned into a woman. It's essentially Which A Woman from Johnny Bravo. They want to say this guy is an asshole who objectifies women. So let's have him turned into a woman and see what it's like to be treated like one and objectified. Stan learns his lesson, gets turned back into a man. Status quo is reset. The end. Now, this episode is a gender bender story. The kind that the idiots who run Hollywood use to, well, they use it to spread a message about objectifying women. One, the logic they constantly use is completely flawed. And two, this is one of the worst shows that you could use for a storyline like this. 'Cause let's really think about it. The show wants to say that Stan is this pompous pig chasing an idealized concept of what he thinks the American dream is, while being a complete asshole to those around him. But by the point they did this, or the fact that they even chose to do it at all, kind of creates a story with horrid moral implications. When in reality, this guy is actually a very disturbed man. It makes sense that eventually the CIA would assign him a therapist. Because let's take a look at Stan from this perspective, really. And yes, I'm going to be using in-universe lore as examples. After Jack Smith left, Stan had to take over as being the man of the house. He grew very attached to his mother, despite what Francine thinks. He became so attached to his mother that he eliminated all of her boyfriends out of the fear that they would leave her just like Jack did. In fact, he's so messed up over Jack leaving that he's convinced himself of that, and is completely overprotective of his mother, despite what Francine thinks. She probably is supportive of Stan going to therapy, but not of him being overprotective of his mother. And this woman tricked her son into killing his dog shortly after Jack left. I checked the wiki. So, he's being a way better son than he should be. The show wants to say that Stan has horrible views on women, but in reality his views on women are a bit conflicted. I mean, look at Francine, for instance. She's basically a spoiled brat who, in the eternal joke that is bad writing, they want to say is repressed in every way and needs to explore herself or be validated or something like that, when in reality, she only married Stan to be provided for. She really couldn't care less about his needs or his belief. For all intents and purposes, this woman is a spoiled brat. She has the mindset of a horny teenager, and, yeah, despite them saying she's repressed and needs liberation, or whatever they want to say she needs, the reality is that, she's basically just a spoiled brat playing dolls. She's just playing house, and goes against her husband's wishes at every point possible. I mean, if this guy didn't have so many traumatic experiences in his life, he would have never married her. Because, yes, Stan wanted a trophy wife, and they want to say he's sexist for that. And they want to say he's a good-for-nothing douchebag for only marrying Francine for her looks, but she only married him to be provided for. And she lives in a country where she could just divorce him, take half his stuff, and make him a wage slave for the next 4 years. Tell me, just think about that, let it sink in, and then ask yourself who's really being objectified here. And that leaves us to the last character I want to talk about. Haley Smith is essentially just a rebellious little cunt who will do whatever it takes to piss her dad off. She actually makes it clear, as far back as season 1, that she hates America. She belittles her mother when Francine is acting like a stereotypical housewife, but when she wants to do anything else, Haley is hypocritically okay with it and completely supportive. She will bend over backwards to piss Stan off. She's basically nothing more than a smug, rebellious asshole. As in rebel. As in traitor. I mean, and it's not like in the 50s where this sort of thing where rebellious teenagers might have a point. The show aired in 2005, and the truth is, Haley Smith is just a cunt. She's the embodiment of naked greed. And the truth is, Francine and Haley are the women that Stan is around the most. And here's the thing. The show wants to say that Stan has a fucked up, horrible opinion of women. But when these are the only two women that he's around, it's no wonder he'd have a terrible view of women. When one is basically just a gold digger who will leave you the minute you can't provide for her, and the other is basically the pompous, smug embodiment of naked greed, of course, either subconsciously, you're gonna say, wow, women are such brats. Every horrid stereotype about them is right. Or you're going to witness how they act and the things you find out about them, the negative things, and eventually have all this pent-up, internalized hatred towards them because of this. Well, because of those things you've just found out over time. The show has this point of view that Stan is a misogynist. But here's the thing. One of the hidden truth about American Dad is that Francine and Haley completely destroyed Stan's view of women. Like I just said, when these two women are the only two you are around for a very long amount of time, you ain't gonna have a very good view of women. And it follows the exact same brand of logic as another show that tried its hand at satire and failed badly. You know, a certain brat who the show says, well, Beavis and Butthead destroyed her image of boys, and that's why she is the way she is, even though she got her own her own spin-off, which I'm pretty sure is canon to Beavis and Butthead's original 90s run. So yeah, by that same exact logic, Francine and Haley kinda destroyed Stan's image of women, because they are the two he is around the most. They're not the only two, but he's around them more than any other women. Stan Smith may love his wife superficially only for his looks, and it's caused by a traumatic event when he was in high school, but yeah, she only loves him for his money, and despite the fact that Haley may not be his, he still loves her like any father would a daughter. And he might be overbearing, but he comes from a good place, and she essentially spits in his face every single time. With a wife like that, who's willing to go against your wishes at the drop of a hat, and a daughter that you do care about, but spits in your face and rebels against you at every opportunity, no wonder you'd have a subconscious hatred of women. People on the internet say Francine should dump Stan. If anything, he should be dumping her and leaving Haley in a third world country that treats its women like cattle. And I'm gonna end this review by saying that that is exactly how American Dad should end if Seth MacFarlane and everyone else who is writing for American Dad in its final season don't want to be seen as fucking hypocrites.